really the connections that you make through like conferences like QuantCon, I think are very, very valuable. Those are people who can propel you forward in your career. Really, it just takes one connection to get your foot in the door.
Hi, I'm Phoebe Foy from Quantopian. Quantopian helps people all across the world solve today's hardest investment challenges. We're back with our Women in FinTech series, and today I am interviewing Beha Abasi. Thank you for being with us.
Of course, my pleasure.
So Beha is currently an intern at Quantopian. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Quantopian?
So I'm actually a rising senior from the University of Toronto over in Canada. I joined this summer Quantopian as an academia intern. So some of what I'm doing is working on lectures, I'm revising and creating new lecture material, and also working on general support for the team.
And can you share with us a little bit about some of the new lecture material and content that you're working on?
So some of the things that I worked on, because of my background, are more finance theory related lectures. So a lot of what we have on the platform right now is mostly just statistics, a lot of general statistics, which is very helpful for people on our platform. But because I studied computer science and economics at school, I was able to sort of bridge a gap in people's knowledge. So bringing in classical financial theories, putting a quantitative spin on them, and showing users how those could be really, really useful in building algos.
You said you knew a little bit about Quantopian before coming to this internship. How did you find out about Quantopian and the internship?
So when I actually first started university, I was just in finance. I didn't really know that much about the quantitative finance world, or really, I'd never really heard of it. And I took one computer science course just because it was a very hot topic and it's a very exciting world, and I fell in love with it afterwards, and I decided I wanted to do both. But still, I didn't really know what I could do with both. It was a world that was sort of closed off and people don't really talk about much. It was very much like you're either in a very technical field or you're in like finance, you're in sales and trading. And so I was Googling around and I discovered this whole world of quantitative finance. I picked up Flash Boys. That was like my first introduction into this whole world. And one of the things that I stumbled upon was Quantopian. This was around like 2015, so about two and a half years ago. And one of the services that I used on the platform was the lecture series. And it was very helpful both in the material that I was learning in school, helping me understand it better, helping me understand how I could actually apply it in the real world, and also just bridging the gap in some of the things that I was interested in.
Yeah. Great. And when you talk about it being like a hot topic, would you say just at school or in the news, how were you hearing about it so much, about quantitative finance? Right.
Well, I mean, I think technology itself is such a hot topic. It's everywhere. It's taking over. I mean, it has taken over our lives completely, and it's bringing so many innovations into society as a whole. And I think there are very few people who could argue that it doesn't have a very great benefit in society as a general. So I wanted to be involved in that. I understood that it was the skill that you needed going forth. I knew that I wouldn't really be able to get very cutting-edge jobs if I didn't have those skills. So I knew I wanted to do that, but I also had a very personal interest in finance, in trading. I'd always been interested in it, and it's what I wanted to pursue. So Quantopian has really helped me with that, and I've realized now that it's actually this huge world. I don't know if it's just because I'm in it now and that's more my world, but I hear about it all the time, and I hear about these new companies that are doing things that are sort of like Quantopian or in the quantitative finance world in general, and they're making a very big impact in other parts of society too. A lot of more classical, like banks, companies like that, they're now labeling themselves as technology companies, which is really interesting to see because, you know, those are the companies that make changes in everyday people's lives. You know, you don't have to be in finance, you don't have to be a trader to be affected by these things. So it's definitely a hot topic, I would say, and it's something that could really make a big impact on people in all facets of life.
Clearly a lot of this came from your own personal interest and things you were researching. Has there been anyone in school or in other work you've done who has made a big impact on you and your choice to pursue this?
I think it's interesting because one of the main characteristics of this field is that it's very secretive. It's very closed off, I think, and I mean, it was true in my own life before I actually came into this world, and I I entered in through a very quantitative role. I had no idea that all of this existed. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not something that is talked about very much, and you sort of have to find your own way in. Mm-hmm. My other job was working at a bank, and it was still very, like, it's a classical, you know, it's a bank, it's what you'd expect, but I was there in a quantitative role. And so through that role, I was able to talk to other people, and they were able to help me understand how all of this works. And they helped me understand the changes that are coming because of technology, specifically in the field of finance. So a lot of my colleagues have been very helpful. And also there's a lot of stuff on the internet, you know, really, like, it seems very obvious, but there's a lot of stuff on the internet, and that's really been the best way for me to learn about this world. I mean, I wouldn't be an academia intern if I didn't plug in our own lecture series in here. It's really been very helpful in opening up this entire world to me. And I think that's sort of the mantra of Quantopian, is they're trying to break open the lid on this field. It's just, you know, it can be very hard to get into, and it can be very hard to learn about, but it's not a good thing.
Yeah. Great. Obviously, finance, technology, FinTech is still a pretty male-dominated field. Have you experienced any discrimination or any challenges by being a woman in this field?
I think for right now in my career, mostly just having done internships, I haven't faced anything that it has really, really affected me, or is really truly at the heart of, you know, sexism and discrimination. I haven't been passed up for a promotion or anything, right? It's just, it's not the phase of the career that I'm in. And you definitely do hear stories about that, and I hope that changes by the time I'm there. But I think right now most of the challenges that I face have been more interpersonal, have been more societal, I think. Okay. So, you know, when you're doing an internship and you're with a bunch of other interns, sometimes you're the only girl, and that's a bit unpleasant, I think. It's not the best situation to be in, and I think I would personally feel more comfortable if there were more women in the field. Of course, I haven't seen or experienced anything firsthand that has been completely offhand and has been completely, you know, it's like taking my breath away or anything, right? nothing. Yeah, of course, it's nothing that bad, but I think they're more under the current. They're a bit more, and people I think are a bit more unconscious when it does happen. Yeah. So things that can sometimes make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, people don't even realize they're doing it. Sure. One of my experiences at my old job was working on a trade floor, and that was always interesting because it was, I would say, like 90% men, and you know, they're all very well-meaning, and they're all very nice people once you get to know them. But once you have a group of all the same people, sometimes a culture comes out that I think even they wouldn't want to come out. So it can be a bit of a boys' club. You definitely see that. But I think the conversation is definitely opened up now, and it's changing, and people are aware of it. And that's the biggest thing. Yeah. People understand that it's a problem, and they understand why it's a problem. And I think also businesses are realizing that it can actually hurt the bottom line when you don't have diversity. So that's definitely changing. It's becoming a bit better, and I hope it does by the time I'm further on in my career. Yeah.
How about in school? What's the ratio like in classes for your field?
In computer science, it's not very good. I think actually the Department of Computer Science has the worst ratio of all the fields. And I think that's historically been true in computer science, even like compared to engineering, which is interesting. There's definitely, you know, you start off first and second year and it's bigger classes. You get a bit more diversity. You get a lot of more people who are doing interdisciplinary studies, so people from other types of majors. But then once you get into third and fourth year, you really see that gender balance really gets skewed. I've been in tutorials where I've been the only, it's like me and like 30 guys. It's, you know, it's the reality. It's not good. And I think people at the administrative level and at the admissions level, they're definitely trying to drive more female admissions, which is really good. But I think that's sort of like an analogy for what's happening in the industry as a whole. There's a lot of women that come in, but then they sort of drop off for various reasons. And they might be personal, but they might also be because of the loneliness that they face when they get into the industry. And there's no one like them. You know, I think it's a big thing and people don't talk about it enough, just not fitting in, you know, apart from like if you're passed up for promotions or things that are more monetary, just not feeling like you don't fit in is a big thing, and it can really change the whole experience of working at a place or being in a certain class, or it can really change your perspective. So I would love to say that the gender balance with the younger generation is much better, but it's the reality of it. But I think again, it's a conversation that's opened up, and that's really the best we can do right now.
So going off of that, for any young women that are pursuing the same field as you, do you have any specific advice for them?
I think if you're in technology, and even if you're in finance, there's so much stuff online. Right now we live in the age where everything is just like Google search away. Any question that you might have, knowledge is right at your fingertips. So taking responsibility for your own education and making sure that you're very, very interested and passionate about the field that you're in, I think, can take you very, very far. Like Quantopian itself, they have a huge lecture series covering a vast variety of different topics. So things that are very statistics-based to things that are, more general finance theory to closer to just what's trading all about, I think just, in your spare time, reading up on that, I think is very helpful. There's a lot of industry conferences that are helpful too. So connecting with people who are already in the industry. I've rarely met people who weren't happy to take some time out of their day and talk to me and just say, this is what it's all about. They would love to help you out and just talk to you. I think it's good for both people. They get to give back and you get to learn, and really the connections that you make through like conferences like QuantCon, I think, are very, very valuable. Those are people who can propel you forward in your career. Really, it just takes one connection to get your foot in the door.
So my final question for you as a senior, what are your career goals when you leave the university?
It's a big question to finish off.
I know.
I think my career goals right now, I think like getting out of university, I think the most important thing for me is to get a very, very type of experiences. So I have the quantitative experiences, especially during this internship. It's been very, very quantitative. But I think one thing that I want to experience is what's it like being on a more of like a business development role or something that's a bit more client facing. I think that'd be really interesting. And I think everyone owes it to themselves coming out of university to just explore different fields, right? I mean, I know personally speaking, I'm not 100% sure that I wanted to go down this path for this role. And I think in the industry that we're in and the times we're in, you can't really do that. You can't really say, this is the job that I want and this is what I'm going to do, just because it's changing so fast. You have to be agile and you have to be able to be flexible in the skill sets that you have and in the jobs that you can do. So I think the thing that would benefit me the most just in the next few years is to get a very, very type of experiences.
Great. Yeah. Well, good luck. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.